Hello, I'm at the piano because I think it might help illustrate this subject better than a guitar. In some of my other videos, I have referred to the harmonic series. If you have a basic level of music education, you're probably already familiar with this phenomenon. It is the series of harmonic pitches created by the fundamental frequency of a regularly vibrating object. Of course, the vibrations we call sound are created by any vibrating object. But not all objects vibrate with a level of regularity required to create a series of distinct harmonics. So when we tap on a table, a wall, even a non-pitched instrument like mini drums or a tambourine, we get vibrations, sounds, but not what we perceive as regular pitch. Ever since humans have discovered how to produce such regular pitches, we have been using them to make music. This can happen with a tightly stretched string, such as on a guitar, a column of air in the tube of a wind instrument, the metal cone of a bell, the wooden bar of a xylophone, or even the head of a drum that is stretched just right over its shell. This would be called a pitched percussion instrument. When such an object vibrates, it produces a fundamental pitch by which we identify it, such as an A, B, or C in the Western system. But it also produces a series of harmonics that are less audible, yet present nonetheless. I'll play the lowest C on the piano, let it fade, and you might be able to hear some of the harmonics as it fades. Can you hear those other pitches besides the basic C that we would call it? Above the fundamental, they are called overtones, and they always occur in the same order. If C is our fundamental, the first overtone is an octave above the fundamental, so another C. The next is a perfect fifth above that octave, which is a G. Then a perfect fourth above that, which is 2 octaves above the fundamental, another C. Then a major third, E. If you know some basic theory, you might know that at this point, we have the pitches that we call a major triad, root, third, and fifth, C, G, and E. All present within the fundamental. A quick clarification here. The pitches of the major triad, root, third, fifth, in a harmonic series appear in the order root, fifth, third. So going from C, it would be in a harmonic series, the C, then the G, then the E, which is root, fifth, and third in that order. The next overtone is a minor third higher, so another G, another fifth of a major chord. This means that the way pitches are handled in most music also has its basis in the harmonic series. It also means that one of the most basic elements of music, the major chord, is a product of natural acoustics rather than a human invention. After that, it gets really interesting because each successive interval of the harmonic series is smaller than the previous. So after this G, we get a pitch that is a little smaller than a minor third, but a little larger than a major second. So on a piano, this pitch is a little higher than an A, but a little lower than a B flat. More about that later. Next is another C, then D, then another E. You might notice that the overtones are now happening in what we call steps, like a scale, namely whole steps. But remember, each succeeding interval is always smaller than the previous. So the whole steps in the harmonic series are not exactly equal to each other as they are on a piano. Again, that explanation is coming later. Next is a pitch that is slightly higher than F, but slightly lower than F sharp. And then we're back to G. Between this G and the next C, there are actually 3 overtones, whereas a Western scale would only have 2, an A and a B. So it would normally be, in our scale, C from G to C would be G, A, B, C. But in the harmonic series, there's 3 pitches in between that G and C rather than only 2. So now we're getting farther away from the scales that are familiar to us in the Western tonal system. This means our tonal system has its basis in the harmonic series, yet the higher we get in the series, the less it resembles our familiar scales. This is because human musical systems and scales are compromises designed to allow playing music in various keys, rather than staying exactly true to the harmonic series. The compromise that is most familiar to most of us, the Western tonal system, is the product of centuries, even millennia, of musical developments. There is a lot of complex history involved, so for now I will just discuss one very important result: the equal temperament we experience on the piano. Rather than follow the harmonic series of one fundamental, the black and white keys are an arrangement based on 12 different fundamentals, spaced equally from each other, so that any set of half steps or whole steps is exactly the same distance as any other. This is different from the harmonic series where, remember, each successive interval is always smaller than the previous, so that the equal temperament of the piano is impossible. This brings us back to the guitar and other string instruments, because they are not tuned or played with perfectly equal temperament, yet not exactly according to the harmonic series either. They are somewhere in between the two, although closer to equal temperament. Yet any pitch played on a string instrument can be altered as it sounds. On fretless instruments, such as the violin, this is called portamento. The finger can land or slide onto a spot slightly higher or lower than the corresponding pitch on a piano. On a fretted instrument, such as the guitar, the string can be bent to pitches higher than the unbent pitch of the fret. I like to use such techniques in my playing and compositions because they provide access to a pitch world beyond that of Western equal temperament, honoring the harmonic series, if you will, although not exactly reproducing it. I have attempted to create a musical language that is closer to the harmonic series than typical Western tonal music. I often use chords and scales that are uncommon in tonal music, yet not atonal, as in the experimental music of the 20th century. One example is this chord, which uses the 6 strings of the guitar to approximate the first 6 different pitches of the harmonic series without octave repetition. As I get higher in pitch, I bend to pitches that are outside Western equal temperament, thus breaking free from it, while not completely rejecting it. The result is, I think, a great level of fluidity and something that echoes both Western and Eastern classical traditions, as well as folk and popular styles such as blues, rock, etc.